I blew out the anniversary candles alone. When my phone screen lit up, I still had buttercream on my fingertips. A text from Lin Chuanfu. 7 words. Nothing more. Working late. Don't wait up. No happy anniversary. No apology. Not even a throwaway emoji. I flipped my phone face down on the table and went back to my now cold steak. Slow, deliberate cuts. One after another, like sawing through a block of wood. Chenma kept glancing at me from the doorway. She hesitated, but I knew what she'd say. Ma'am, you've been waiting for 3 hours. But she didn't say it. 10 years. Everyone here accepts this wait. He never comes. And I clean up the wreckage alone. Even the staff think it's just how things are. My phone pinged again. Once. I glanced over. Not Lin Chuanfu this time. A number I never saved. The message was brutally simple. President Shen wants to know. Are you coming home this year? I stared at the words. My fork froze midair. 10 years. A full decade. I have never received a single message from this number. Tonight, it finally shows. I set down my fork, rose from my chair, and walked into the bedroom. Chenma asked if she should clear the table. I glanced back and gave her a smile. No. Leave it. She blinked, visibly stunned. She'd never seen that smile, not the meek one. The tight-lipped, put-upon smile. This was different. Light. Distant. Like I had just set down a crushing weight. In the bedroom walk-in closet, there's a safe. Embedded deep into the back wall. Lin Chuanfu has no idea it even exists. He thinks I've only cooked and served his folks. And that I have nothing valuable enough to lock up. I punched in the code, the safe clicked open. Delicate snap. Like something long dormant had just opened its eyes. Inside, a single sandalwood box. Engraved on its lid is an osmanthus flower. The grooves have been worn smooth by time. But the faint scent of sandalwood still lingers. I opened the lid. Nestled inside was a jade thumb ring. The green was so deep and rich, it looked like it was about to bleed. Inside, a single character, Shen. The family heirloom. My father put it on my thumb when I was 18. That day, he said, Yan Yan, 3 generations of Shen family. Wherever you go, whatever happens, as long as you have it, our doors are always open. Dad, where would I even go? He said. I'm afraid one day you won't want anyone to know who you are. I held the cool jade ring. With a long-lost, grounding weight. At the very bottom of the box, tucked flat, was a photograph. Taken when I was 22. The girl in the picture is wearing a white power suit. At Shen Corp's ribbon cutting. With a brazen, confident smile, surrounded by a dozen reporters. Flashbulbs washed her face out, making it look impossibly bright. All knew Shen's only daughter, Yin Yan. At 23, she ran point on a billion-dollar merger. Solo. At 24, she was on the cover of Fortune Weekly. Everyone said she was the future of the Shen Empire. Until I met Lin Chuanfu. He appeared at a charity auction. He'd just founded his own tech startup back then, a self-made man. Handsome, sharp, unfazed by anyone. Surrounded by all those bloated, greasy businessmen. Clean as bamboo, drawn to his drive. And he was drawn to my light. We dated for 2 years. He vowed to protect me forever. I told my father, I'm going to marry Lin Chuanfu. My father was silent for a very long time. He asked, worth giving up Shen Corp? I said, he doesn't like women who are too aggressive. I don't want to use the Shen family name to intimidate him. I just want to be a normal wife, to stand beside him. My father sighed and said, fine, go, then. But remember this, Yan Yan. A daughter of the Shen family cannot be contained by just anyone. I locked everything about Shen Corporation into that safe. I erased the name Yun Yenshen from my identity card. And replaced it with Yenshen. I told Lin Chuanfu. Parents ran a small shop down south. He just nodded and said, that's nice. He didn't like complicated family dynamics. Never knew small shop was Shen Corp. Nor that city was the province's core. He thought he was bringing home a wife with no background. A docile and obedient woman. And I played that role perfectly for 10 years. putting away the photo and the ring. My eyes landed on a craft envelope in the corner of the safe. It was unsealed, with a single sheet of paper inside. The handwriting was rushed, but firm. A date and an address. I secretly bought Fu Lingquan's rival company 3 years ago. He never knew I caused his near bankruptcy. He doesn't know I reviewed finances nightly after he slept, using my Shen family connections to pave his way in the dark. He just thinks big orders keep coming, and every crisis somehow resolves itself. He thinks he just got lucky. I replied, coming back this year. Have everything ready for me tomorrow. After sending it, I deleted the message. I deleted the sent record too. The phone screen reflected my face. The skin was well taken care of, but the eyes were dead. 34 isn't old. But being worn down makes me feel lifeless. This is the wife Fu Lingquan wanted. Quiet, obedient, never seen in public. In 10 years, he rarely took me out. Occasionally, friends came over. His introduction was always the same, "This is my wife." And that was it. Nothing more. He had zero interest in letting people get to know me. He never saw the need to integrate me into his social circle. People at his company don't even know he's married. A new secretary called me once. First words out of her mouth, "Am I speaking to Mr. Fu's housekeeper?" I paused for a second. "It's Mrs. Fu." Everyone's so used to treating me like I'm invisible. My mother-in-law ignores my cooking. She just says, "Leave it there." My sister-in-law comes with the kids, dumps the baby in my arms and walks out to go shopping. Comes back and doesn't even mutter a thank you. For Chinese New Year, I cooked dinner for over a dozen people. I waited until all ate, then nibbled cold scraps. No one saved me a plate. And Fu Lingquan? At the table, he talked business with his dad, stocks with his sister. His only glance at me, "Tea's cold. Brew more." I got up to make more tea. The steam in the kitchen stung my eyes. Fireworks exploded outside, lighting up the whole damn sky. I stood at the stove, holding fresh Dragon Well tea. I barely recall the confident girl I was at 22. It feels like a needle piercing the softest part of your heart. A dull ache. I returned, set the teapot down. Fu Lingquan didn't even spare me a glance. Just went on talking to his father. In the corner, I ate every cold, wilted bite. It's not that I wasn't hurt. You just get so used to the resentment, you stop feeling it. Never got used to her secret calls. Once a month. Her voice always hushed, rushed. "Yen Yen. How are things over there? Is he treating you right? Enough money?" I'd smile, all good. He'd pause for a few seconds, then say, "Your father won't admit it. He worries." I'd cut in fast. I know my limits. He knows exactly what I mean by that. The Shen family rule, when a daughter chooses her own path, the family doesn't interfere. But if she ever decides to turn back, the Shen family will be there to catch her. I locked the safe again. As I stood up, my knee cracked against the floor. The pain made me hiss through my teeth. I braced myself against the wall and walked to the full-length mirror. Staring back at me was a woman in a beige house dress. Hair tied back in a loose knot. An apron with a steak grease stain still on it. 3-year-old cotton slippers on my feet. This is Mrs. Fu's 10-year marriage. From billion-dollar heir to worn slippers. My phone lit up again. This time, it was Lingquan Fu calling. I answered, but before I could say a word, chaotic background noise spilled through. Voices, music, all tangled together. Lingquan Fu's voice was tinged with exhaustion. And just a hint of impatience. It slipped my mind to tell you. Tonight is Mingda Capital's President Jin's gala. Very high profile. It's all industry people. Don't overthink it. I should be home by midnight. He used it slipped my mind. Not deliberately hiding it. Just forgot. As if telling me was some monumental task he had to remember. I gripped the phone, studying my own placid face in the mirror. And very softly, I laughed. Okay. He probably didn't catch what was in that laugh. He rushed out to get some sleep and hung up. I tossed the phone onto the bed and walked into the walk-in closet. This time, it wasn't to open the safe. It was to open another wardrobe door. One that hadn't been opened in a decade. Inside hung suits. All of them. Black, white, navy. Each piece pressed into a razor-sharp crease. Like a silent army waiting for orders. In the very back, a smoke-gray haute couture gown. The Shin family's exclusive designer sends new pieces every year. Whether I wear them or not. This year's was a modernized cheongsam. A pearl-studded collar. A waist cut impossibly narrow. A slit that climbs to 3 inches above the knee. With every step, a flash of leg. Equal parts lethal and refined. There was a handwritten card pinned to the dress, Mississippi. Smile again this year. I laid the dress flat on the bed. Then I opened the vanity drawer. Inside were neatly arranged jewelry sets. Jade, diamonds, pearls. Each piece worth a fortune. Each one hidden away by me for 10 years. I sat in front of the mirror and started my makeup. Foundation, eyeliner, lip stain. Stroke by stroke, like redrawing a face on a blank canvas. The mirror's woman morphed back, eyebrows arched. A gaze both bright and razor-sharp. Her pressed lips held cold, silencing authority. I applied the final touch. I stared at the reflection for a few seconds. It's been a long time. Yin Yan Shen. My phone buzzed as I was putting on my earrings. It was President Jean from Mingda capital. 3 years ago, Fu nearly swallowed his firm whole. My quiet pressure made him withdraw the bid. He turned around and gave Lin Chuanfu a low-interest loan. He's owed me a favor ever since. I called back. It rang twice before he picked up. Jin's voice, fawning. Ms. Shen? Is that you? I leaned back, flat-toned. President Jean. Tonight's Mingda Gala. Has Lin Chuanfu arrived? Yes, he's here. President Fu's here. He whispered, coming? Skip the welcome, I said. I'll walk in myself. So, will you be attending as Mrs. Fu? Or, President Jean? The woman who shows up at your party tonight won't be Mrs. Fu. I paused, watching those dormant eyes in the mirror. I smiled slowly. She'll be the Shin's daughter. When the Rolls-Royce pulled up to the hotel entrance, the valet froze for 3 full seconds before snapping out of it. From the back seat, a 50-meter red carpet, flanked by a wall of cameras. Mingda Capital's annual gala was no small event. A parade of luxury cars lined up at the entrance, each arrival triggering a frenzy of camera shutters. When my car stopped, silence swallowed the scene for 2 seconds. A Dawn Collector's Edition, one of only 3. The only one in the country, with a custom vanity plate. The seasoned journalists were already murmuring to each other, trying to dig up the identity of this VIP. My driver opened the door. The moment my heel touched the red carpet, the flashbulbs erupted in a blinding frenzy. Not the polite, routine snaps. Then a manic shudder burst. Who is that? No one answered. Because no one knew who she was. That didn't stop the cameras. A woman in smoky gray couture stepped from a limited Rolls-Royce. That image alone was headline-worthy. I straightened my back and swept a very natural glance across the cameras on either side, offering the faintest smile. Not the people-pleasing kind, but the condescending, appraising kind. A look from above. My media instincts at 22 are carved into my bones. 10 years without using it, still, it won't be forgotten. Jewels flashed cold under the lights. Jadeite earrings. A pearl collar clasp. And on the left ring finger, deliberately bare. Worn alone, that jade thumb ring of the Shin family. A guard approached, apologizing, needing to verify the invitation. I didn't speak. I merely lifted my eyes. My assistant produced a black card with gilded lettering. The guard took it, scanned it, and his pupils visibly contracted. He returned it with both hands, bowing 90 degrees. This way, please. The VIP passage, if you would. The VIP passage went straight to the penthouse ballroom. As the elevator ascended, I was surrounded by mirrored walls. I looked at my countless reflections. Tall, glacial, So extravagantly expensive I seemed unapproachable. A world apart from that woman in cotton slippers and an apron. The elevator opened. The gala's roar engulfed me. Crystal chandeliers rained crushed diamond light. In the vast ballroom, gowns and suits mingled, glasses clinking. The men were uniformly in dark suits. The women wore this season's couture from every major house. Standing in small clusters, chatting. Every face wore an exquisite social mask. I stood at the entrance. I didn't go in immediately. Because I was looking for one person. And I found him, quickly. Lin Chuanfu was standing in the right section of the ballroom. Holding a glass of champagne. Chatting with a few middle-aged men. He was wearing a navy blue suit tonight. His hair was meticulously styled, his posture ramrod straight. His smile was gentle, with soft eyes. Standing out sharply among the portly, middle-aged businessmen. I knew the people around him. President Jean of Mingda Capital. CEO Li of Yuanda Group, and 2 real estate moguls. These men now fawned, a total shift from before I paved his way 3 years ago. They didn't know why his company always won big contracts. All they knew, President Fu's meteoric rise over 2 years. They needed to ingratiate, fast. I stepped forward. In 10-centimeter heels, unhurried pace. The slit of the cheongsam swayed gently with my stride. Revealing a glimpse of a long, straight leg. Someone noticed me. Their wine glass froze in midair. Eyes began tracking my trajectory. Then a second person. A third. The hum of conversation slowly died down. Like pebbles being dropped into still water. Ripples spreading outward, one concentric circle at a time. Lin Chuanfu was the last person to notice something was off. He had his back to me, deep in conversation with President Jean. Probably sensed the sudden silence around him. He paused, turned, and then he saw me. His face shifted, first, confusion. A slight furrow of his brow. Like he was seeing someone both familiar and utterly foreign. His brain scrambling to connect the dots. Then, shock. Eyes wide, lips slightly parted. The champagne flute in his hand nearly slipping through his fingers. And finally, anger. A raw, affronted fury. He strode toward me, fast and clipped. Dress shoes pounding hollow against the marble floor. By the time he reached me, his familiar cologne hit me like a wall. Mixed with sour alcohol. He grabbed my wrist. His grip so hard my jade bracelet dug sharply into the bone. What are you doing here? His voice was a low hiss. Lips practically grazing my ear. Every syllable laced with barely contained rage. Do you have any idea what this event is? How did you even get in? Who told you to come? I didn't pull away. I just tilted my head slightly and met his eyes. And said quietly, you actually think I couldn't get in? My words stung. He choked on his reply. Probably the first time he'd ever heard me use that tone. The me he knew should be looking down, murmuring I'm sorry. I just wanted to take a look. Before letting him shove me into a cab and send me home. He looked me over. Head to toe. From the crown of my hair to the tilt of my shoulder. His eyes swept my cheongsam, emerald earrings. The bangle on my wrist, the thumb ring. His pupils contracted sharply. And then his face darkened even further. Teeth clenched. Where did you get this? You know your family situation. How much did you pay to rent these? He thought they were rentals. 10 years of marriage. And seeing his wife draped in enough jewelry to buy a manor. He assumed fakes. I couldn't help but laugh. And that laugh must have cut deep. Because his grip on my wrist tightened painfully. His voice dropped low. Almost a command, leave. Now. Take the side exit. Avoid President Jin's crowd. Do you have any idea how critical tonight is? Discuss at home. Go now, President Fu. A voice from behind cut him off. President Jin walked over with a glass of red wine. A fawning smile was plastered across his face as he approached us. His gaze flickered to Lin Chuanfu's grip. Then it darted away. His smile stretched even wider. He bowed slightly. You came unannounced. I'd have sent someone to escort you. Where are my manners? Lin Chuanfu froze solid. He looked at Jean, then back at me, completely lost. His expression went from furious to utterly confused. And then the confusion curdled into a gnawing sense of dread. His hand was still clamped around my wrist. But his grip, unconsciously, loosened just a fraction. Mr. Jean, Lin Chuanfu said, his brow furrowing. You know my wife? The moment the words my wife left his mouth, President Jin's face did a full-on contortion. It was a mess of wanting to laugh but not daring to. Of scrambling to explain but having no clue where to even begin. He opened his mouth, glanced at me, then over at Lin Chuanfu, and snapped it shut again. I gently shook off Lin Chuanfu's hand. I rubbed my wrist, red marks blooming where he'd held me. I gave Jean a small nod. You're too kind, Mr. Jean. You've done a marvelous job with tonight's setup. Mr. Jean waved his hands dismissively. Oh, hardly. Mingda is honored by your presence. Does President Shen know you're here? No, I said. I thought I'd surprise him. Mr. Jin's eyes lit up. He nodded. Of course. President Shen is there. Allow me to escort you. That won't be necessary. I lifted my gaze, past him, to the deepest sanctum of the ballroom. The VIP lounge. It was cordoned off with towering greenery and ornate screens. A few security guards in black suits flanked the sides. You could feel the power shift. It was a completely different league. I'll manage on my own. Lin Chuanfu stood there, paralyzed. The man wasn't a fool. Who was Mr. Jean? The man at the helm of Mingda Capital. He's notorious in the financial circle for looking down on everyone. Few can make him hand over a card. Now, Jin's attitude towards me has gone way beyond mere politeness. It almost borders on reverence and fear. Lin Chuanfu whipped his head around to stare at Mr. Jean. His voice strained. Mr. Jean, you know her? Mr. Jean shot him a look reserved for dead men walking. He said nothing. Lin Chuanfu looked back at me. A flicker of panic surfaced in his eyes. Along with something I'd never seen before. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but nothing came out. He realized his wife, in a gown he couldn't afford, and jewelry he'd only ever seen in auction catalogs, making his top-tier connections bow and scrape in front of her. Wasn't the Yenshin he knew. I turned and walked towards the VIP area. Just as I stepped forward, Lin Chuanfu suddenly reached out to grab me. I stepped aside, pivoting gracefully on my high heels. She glanced back. Isn't tonight crucial? Don't embarrass yourself. He paled. I ignored him from then on, walking straight towards that screen guarded by security. Behind me, I heard Mr. Jin's lowered voice. He gritted, President Fu, know her? I didn't hear Lin Chuanfu's reply. Because I had already reached the entrance to the VIP section. The security guard was startled at first sight of me. Then his gaze fell on the jade thumb ring I was wearing. The ring glowed jade green and translucent under the light. The character shone faintly visible on its inner side. The guard's expression instantly turned deeply reverent. He bowed and cleared the way. I walked past that screen. Inside was a private lounge area, much quieter than outside. Furnished with just a few leather sofas and a rosewood tea table. A gray-haired man sat alertly, wearing a dark gray zhongshan suit. He was toying with a string of agarwood prayer beads. Two assistants stood beside him, reporting something in low voices. His presence was immense, just by sitting there. He seemed to steady the entire space. 10 years had passed. My father had aged so much, more than half his hair had turned white, and the wrinkles around his eyes had deepened. But those eyes were still as sharp as they were a decade ago. He probably heard the footsteps and looked up. His gaze sweeping over casually before freezing completely. The agarwood bead slipped from his fingers and hit the tea table. With a clear, crisp crack. It was like a lightning bolt hit him. He went rigid. Then, he slowly rose to his feet. The assistant next to him was startled by the reaction, and rushed to support him. He slapped the man's hand away. He took 2 steps toward me, stumbling slightly. His lips trembling. He stared at me for a full 10 seconds. His eyes slowly reddened, and then he finally spoke. His voice was hoarse, as if it were being squeezed out of his chest, trembling, on the verge of tears. Carrying a decade of suppressed longing and regret. My daughter. How come you're here? The entire banquet hall fell silent at that moment. Because the VIP screens were semi-open. Wu Yuenshin's voice carried out with zero obstruction. Everyone in the hall heard those 5 words. Everyone stopped what they were doing and turned in unison to look this way. Lin Chuanfu stood among the crowd. his face as pale as a sheet of paper. I walked forward. I picked up the bracelet and returned it to my father. I held his trembling hand and offered the first genuine smile I'd given in 10 years. Dad, I'm here to take you home. Wei Yuanshan's hand trembled fiercely in my palm. This man, who had dominated the business world for 30 years. He could bankrupt rivals at the table without blinking. Now looked like a child who lost and found his treasure. His eyes were terrifyingly red. His lips quivered for a long moment, but he couldn't force out a second word. Holding my hand, he kept rubbing the thumb ring on my finger, as if making sure the person before him was real. His fingers were thick, knuckles swollen, covered in calluses. Scars left behind from the factory floors during his early years. These hands signed billion-dollar deals, shook world leaders' hands. Now, they shook like a leaf. You. His voice was still raw. You've gotten so thin. Just 3 words. And then his tears fell. A billionaire mogul. Crying openly before hundreds of business elites. Making absolutely no effort to hide it. His stunned assistants exchanged glances and silently stepped back a few paces. They had followed Wei Yuanshan for so many years, never seeing their boss show such emotion. A pang shot through my own nose too, but I held it in. Tonight wasn't for tears. Dad, with so many eyes on us. I steadied his hand, keeping my tone as light as possible. What about your reputation as the big shot tycoon? Wei Yuanshan swiped a hand messily across his face. His voice was still thick. My daughter was gone. To hell with my reputation, he boomed. Everyone outside could hear it crystal clear. The silence shattered, gasps rippled. Someone's wine glass clattered to the floor. No one moved to pick it up. Everyone was frozen in the same pose, necks craned. Jaw slightly agape, eyes fixed and unblinking on the VIP section. What the hell did they just hear? Shen Buiyuan, the patriarch of Shen Corporation, top billionaire, called her his daughter. Shen Buiyuan's only daughter vanished from the public eye a decade ago. She was low-key, out of Shen Corp. No one knew who she married. No one had ever seen what she looked like after the wedding. Wait. This woman was just standing with Lin Chuanfu. And Lin Chuanfu said, my wife. The information was too much, a massive overload. Everyone's minds froze for seconds. All eyes pinned Fu Linchuan. Lin Chuanfu stood amidst the crowd. All color had drained from his face, not just pale. It was a ghastly, almost translucent white, the pallor of death. A sheen of fine, cold sweat beaded on his forehead, glinting coldly under the lights. His hand was still frozen in the shape of gripping my wrist. His fingers were slightly curled, rigid in midair. He must have dropped his champagne flute at some point. Champagne spilled, he didn't notice. President Jean stepped back, conflicted. As if he was drawing a hard line between himself and Lin Chuanfu. President Li of Yuanda Group was already scrolling through his phone, likely digging up financial news from 10 years ago. Trying to confirm what the Shen heiress actually looked like. Lin Chuanfu's lips moved, as if he was trying to speak, but only a faint, choked whisper escaped his throat. I didn't need to hear it to know what he wanted to ask. He wanted to ask, you're Shen Buiyuan's daughter? He wanted to ask, why? 10 years, and you never said a single word? He wanted to ask, who the hell are you? All these questions were written on his face. In his rapidly constricting pupils. On his faintly trembling fingers. But I wasn't looking at him. I helped my father sit down on the sofa and poured him a cup of tea. Shen Buiyuan took it but didn't drink. He set the cup down on the table, and instead, took my hand in his. His eyes ached with guilt, he whispered. But the oppressive authority had already returned to his tone. It was the tone he reserved for his adversaries. You tell me. Have you lived in the fuss? He roared, slamming the table. The teacup jumped, splashing tea everywhere. Everyone outside flinched collectively at the sound. Wei Yuanshan's gaze had already swept past me, locked onto the rigid figure with terrifying precision. You, Fu. Wei Yuanshan rose to his feet. He's half a head taller than me. lean, but with a big frame. When he stands, he carries an authority that needs no words. Like a mountain slowly rising. His gaze cut through the crowd, slashed past the crystal chandelier light, and landed on Lin Chuan Fu. Come here. Not President Fu. Not Mr. Fu. You, Fu. When that form of address fell from Wei Yuanshan's mouth, everyone present felt its crushing weight. It wasn't ordinary disdain. It was the towering wrath of a father who has just discovered his daughter was tormented for 10 years. Lin Chuan Fu didn't move. Not unwilling to. His legs were jelly, knees trembling. Even his suit trousers couldn't hide it. His Adam's apple bobbed several times. Finally, he forced a step, swallowing fear. Each step agonizing, like walking on blades. The stares from all around pierced his back like 1,000 needles. He's always been the most dazzling man in the room. Never, ever treated like a criminal awaiting his sentencing. At the VIP entrance, a guard blocked him. Wei Yuanshan gave a dismissive wave. The guard withdrew. Lin Chuan Fu stood 3 steps away from us. Close enough to see every deep wrinkle on my father's face. Close enough to see sweat roll down his temple. He opened his mouth. Voice scraped glass. President Shen? Who's that? Wei Yuanshan stared at him coldly. 10 years married, and you call me President Shen? The blood drained from Lin Chuan Fu's face, leaving it a shade paler. Correcting himself seemed to cost him unimaginable effort. As if that single word weighed 1,000 pounds on his tongue. Suffocating him. Father? Don't call me father. Wei Yuanshan's voice dropped to ice. I don't deserve it. That line landed like a slap across the face. It hit Lin Chuan Fu so hard his entire body swayed on its feet. Instinctively, he looked at me, his eyes pleading for rescue. I knew that look so well. 10 years of marriage. That's his look for handling tough clients. Only this time, he wasn't facing a difficult client. He was facing my father. I lifted my teacup and gave it a gentle blow. Didn't even glance at him. Wei Yuanshan took a step forward. Lin Chuan Fu instinctively staggered a step back. But he forced himself to stand firm. Wei Yuanshan looked him up and down. He eyed his suit and shoes. Finally landing on the understated cufflinks at his wrists. You wear suits from this label. And cufflinks of this caliber. Wei Yuanshan's voice was quiet, but every word cut like a dull knife. Do you have any idea what your wife wears at home? Lin Chuan Fu froze. She wears 30 yuan cotton slippers. For 3 years, she never replaced them. Wei Yuanshan enunciated each word. Her apron is covered in grease stains that won't wash out. Her hands crack open in the winter. From washing dishes and laundry for the Fu family. Did you know any of this? Lin Chuan Fu's Adam's apple bobbed. No words came out. What do you think carried you through all these years? Wei Yuanshan let out a cold laugh. He skimmed the contract pages. Fusher Tech. 3 years ago, your capital chain snapped. Mingda Capital was ready to acquire you. You were so desperate you couldn't sleep for 3 days and nights. Then Mingda suddenly pulled the acquisition plan. Even loaned you cash. That bold? Lin Chuan Fu whipped his head towards President Jean. President Jean stood in the crowd. His expression screaming, don't look at me, I didn't say a thing. 5 years ago, you couldn't land the Huayuan government order. A competitor was 200 million under your quote. Before signing, Huayuan swapped you. Wei Yuanshan flipped another page. You thought it was your brilliant proposal. Lin Chuan Fu's face had gone from white to ashen gray. And those core tech patents your company holds. Sued for infringement over and over, yet always settled out of court. You thought they were afraid of you. Wei Yuanshan threw the document onto the table. The papers scattered, revealing a dense web of clauses and signatures. He leaned back against the sofa. Glared at him with hate. Each rescue. My daughter cleaned up. Silence fell. Lin Chuan Fu looked completely gutted. Standing there, about to crumble. He looked at me. His eyes bloodshot, his lips moving wordlessly for a long moment. Finally, he choked out a few words. It was you. I set my teacup down. And at last, I raised my head, meeting his gaze head on. His eyes I saw 10 years from the tender love. To the indifference of marriage to the panic and doubt of tonight. I realized my heart was eerily calm. Like a lake battered by 10 years of wind, finally frozen solid. It was you, all along? He asked again. His voice is hoarse like he's not helping you. I'm talking. The tone is very light, like saying something that has nothing to do with yourself. I was cleaning up your mess. I paused. Without me? What the hell are you, Lin Chuanfu? The moment those words landed, the entire ballroom went so silent you could hear the AC humming. Lin Chuanfu's body staggered slightly. Behind him, someone whispered, "Oh my god. Lin Chuanfu's wife is the Shen heiress?" Then came a rising tide of frantic whispers crashing in. Miss Shen? Wait, the Shen family? You mean that Shen family? Wei Yuan Shen's only daughter. 10 years ago, the youngest talented trader in business married Fu Linchuan. Didn't Fu always say his wife came from a middle-class background? Look at his face right now. He didn't even know he was married to the heiress of a fortune. And he treated her like hired help. Is she insane or just brain dead? The voices were quiet, but just loud enough for Lin Chuanfu to catch every word. He stood at the center of that maelstrom of gossip, every comment slicing into him like a scalpel scraping bone. He's got so much pride. He's always embarrassed people. Never the one to be humiliated. But tonight, he was the biggest joke in front of hundreds of people. Wei Yuan Shen watched him. Not a shred of pity in his eyes. My daughter told me years ago. She wanted to marry a self-made man with ambition. Wei Yuan Shen's voice sank lower. She said he didn't like dominant women. So she didn't want to use the Shen name to overshadow him. She said she just wanted to be a simple wife. To stay by his side through it all. He paused. His voice suddenly aged a decade. I really thought the man she chose, at the very least, truly loved her. That single line hurt more than any accusation. Lin Chuanfu's eyes reddened. This wasn't an act. It was raw. He clenched his fists. The knuckles are white and the whole person is stretched like a full bow. He stared at me, a storm of regret, shock, and fear in his eyes. There is also something I don't quite understand, which is probably what he has missed in the past 10 years. Yan Yan, he breathed my name. His voice trembling violently. I didn't. I honestly had no idea why you didn't tell me. I looked at that face of his, a face that used to make my heart race. And suddenly, I wanted to laugh. Tell you? I rose to my feet slowly, meeting his eyes. Would you have let me go to your social events? He said nothing. Would you have stopped your family from treating me like the help? He still said nothing. Would you, on our anniversary, have given me the moment the clock struck midnight? My voice was perfectly calm the entire time. So calm it was like I was asking what he'd had for dinner. But Lin Chuanfu's face had completely crumbled. Something glistened in his eyes. Jaw tight, muscles twitching. No, you wouldn't. I answered for him. You would have just found a new way to use me. No, he took a step toward me, but was immediately blocked by Wei Yuan Shen's security team. He struggled for a moment, raising his voice. Yan Yan. I'm not that kind of man. I really, truly didn't know any. I cut him off. Truly love me? Lin Chuanfu, it's been 10 years. You don't even know the first thing about who I really am. Who is it you love? He was struck speechless by my question. I adjusted the cuff of my cheongsam with an elegant, unhurried grace. Like I was tidying up a used napkin after a casual meal. Then I looked over at Wei Yuan Shen and said softly, Dad, I'm tired. I want to go home. Wei Yuan Shen stood up instantly, taking my hand. Voice softened. Let's go home. Daddy's taking you home. Wait. Lin Chuanfu pushed guards away and charged right up to me. His hair was a mess, his tie was crooked. Gone was his earlier confidence. His eyes were alarmingly red, tears glinting within them. And his voice was practically a roar. Yan Yan. 10 years. Think whatever you want of me. But in these 10 years, I have never once betrayed you. You can't just walk away like this. I stopped in my tracks and glanced back at him, just a single glance. You've never betrayed me? I smiled. Smiled very softly, very faintly. Lin Chuanfu, go out and ask. Ask those friends of yours. Ask your secretary, ask your family. Ask them. What life has Mrs. Fu endured for 10 years? I turned to face the crowd in the hall, and my voice, though quiet, came out with perfect clarity. Everyone. I am Yan Yan Shen, the daughter of Wei Yuan Shen. In these 10 years, I washed the dishes for over 3,600 of the Fu family's meals. I washed every single piece of clothing for everyone in that family. Raised my sister-in-law's child. Waited on my in-laws hand and foot, day and night. During the new year, I'd cook a feast for over a dozen people. I ate cold leftovers alone at the table's corner. In the crowd, someone gasped. Someone covered their mouth. Every single card in Linchuan's company was laid by me. Behind every major client of his is someone from the Shen family. He doesn't even know what I majored in. Doesn't know what awards I won in college. He never knew she once made Forbes 30 under 30. I paused. I looked at Lin Chuanfu. He stood there, like a stone statue drenched by a storm. The last flicker of light in his eyes had gone out. You married a housekeeper you took for granted, I said. And I married a man I believed was my lover. I guess we're even. After I said that, the hall froze in dead silence for 10 seconds. A silence where breathing felt too loud. Hundreds of sharply dressed business elites had collectively turned into mannequins, frozen in place. Someone's phone vibrated in their hand. They fumbled frantically to silence it, like it was a capital offense. Lin Chuanfu stood 3 steps away from me. Behind him, 1,000 eyes. Before him, my father and I. The look on his face was beyond mere humiliation. It was the utter defeat of a completely broken man. His lips moved several times, as if searching for a defense. But each time he opened his mouth, no sound came out of his throat. Because everything I said was the truth. Every single word. And he knew it better than anyone. Wei Yuanshan stood beside me, holding my hand, his fingers still trembling slightly. After listening to my words, he didn't look at Lin Chuanfu. He lowered his head, eyes still red, glancing at me. But the look in them had shifted from a father's softness to the fury of a lion watching its cub bleed. Over 3,000 meals, his voice was very soft. As if speaking to himself or just confirming. Almost. Yes. 365 days a year, for 10 years. Breakfast and dinner. He didn't come home for lunch. Add holidays and extra guests, that averages out to 2 meals a day. 10 years, that's over 7,000. Minus visits home, about 3,600. No more, only less. Wei Yuanshan closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. Anyone knew that gesture, he was holding back. In the business world, Wei Yuanshan is known as Shen the Tiger. He once slammed tables hard enough to knock cups over. With age, he mellowed out. He can put on a smile, just like the friendly old man next door. But those who truly know him know. That when Wei Yuanshan closes his eyes and takes a deep breath, that's when he's absolutely livid. All right. He opened his eyes. His calm was more terrifying than fury. Good. He turned around, facing the crowd in the hall. Hundreds of people instinctively took a half step back. Wei Yuanshan's gaze swept across the room, finally landing on a corner. There stood an elderly couple and a young woman. All 3 of them were as pale as ghosts. They had come up from another passageway. Jin's gala tonight was a huge affair, and the Fu family had somehow gotten their hands on an invitation. The whole family came. They just weren't standing with Lin Chuanfu. They were probably hoping to rub elbows with some wealthy people to elevate their own status. Well, now all eyes were definitely on them. The mother-in-law was wearing a maroon cheongsam. Her hair in tight curls, her foundation looking cakey and thick under the lights. Moments ago, she bragged about her son's success, saying heiresses were dying to marry into the Fu family. Before she finished, she heard Shen cry daughter. Her napkin dropped. The father-in-law stood nearby. His suit was a little old, the cuffs worn to a shine. An honest man. He had no real say at home. His whole life, whatever his wife said, went. He wrung his hands, sweat beading on his forehead. His lips trembled, he didn't dare look at anyone. The sister-in-law, Wan Fu, was clutching a glass of juice. Her face, meticulously made up, was now a mask of terror. Her hand was shaking so badly, juice was spilling onto her dress. She was completely oblivious. Those 3 had heard every single word I just said, loud and clear. The talk of over 3,000 meals, the treatment like a servant, leftovers, words like boomerangs drilling into their ears. now amplified infinitely under the gaze of everyone present. Boyu Enshin looked straight at the mother-in-law. Mrs. Fu. Just 3 words, and the mother-in-law's entire body jolted. Her mouth opened and closed, forcing a smile onto her face. A smile worse than a grimace. Shen. President Shen, your daughter was married to my son for 10 years. Boyu Enshin's voice was perfectly even. Devoid of any emotion. Every Chinese New Year's Eve. She cooked a family feast for all of you. You finished eating. And you didn't even leave her a clean pair of chopsticks. My mother-in-law's face turned the color of liver. Her lips moved, but she choked for a long moment. Before blurting out, no. She said she wanted to eat last. We didn't make her. Shen Boyuan let out a laugh. A laugh so cold it could freeze wine. The whole family sat down. She finished and left the table. She ate cold leftovers alone. Did any of you save her a single dish? Did anyone say, thank you for your hard work? Did anyone, the moment she sat at the corner, offer her a clean set of chopsticks? My mother-in-law was bombarded speechless. She stumbled back into the table. The stemware wobbled. She reached out instinctively to steady it. Her hands shook. Fu Wan spoke. Her voice was shrill and thin, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Stop slandering us. My sister-in-law, we treat her just fine at home. She's the one who's so quiet. It's not our fault if, Miss Fu. I spoke. Fu Wan's voice cut off abruptly, as if strangled. I took 2 steps toward her. Heels clicked steady on marble. Each step sure. Fu Wan's 5 years younger. 29, spoiled princess. She shoved her son at me for years. Saying watch him then off shopping. Never once a word of thanks when she got back. She'd snipe, why that color? So ugly. I stopped right in front of her. I glanced down at the Cartier bracelet on her wrist. This bracelet? From your brother's money? She froze, instinctively covering her wrist. That money? I smiled. I was the one who secured it for your brother. Without it, his company would have gone bankrupt years ago. You couldn't even afford the sales tax on that bracelet. Every drop of color drained from Fu Wan's face. You spent my money, dumped your child on me. Then blamed my care. Each word sharp. You're right? As the words fell, tears instantly streamed down Fu Wan's face. Not tears of grievance, but of pure humiliation and rage. She opened her mouth to retort, but what remained of her rational mind? She's no pushover, Shen Boyuan's daughter. Top of business food chain. She stayed quiet. Her tears pattered onto the bracelet. A male voice behind, my father-in-law. Now, he couldn't hold it in any longer. His voice was trembling. But there's a genuine thread of guilt woven into his voice, Yen Yen. We've wronged you all these years. We didn't know. We never knew your family, you were rich. But halfway through, he realized how wrong that sounded. So he choked the rest back down. I turned to look at him. My father-in-law alone showed me slight courtesy. But at least, he never nitpicked me, never ordered me around. Sometimes he'd say, come, eat with us. That made him the kindest in the Fu family. You don't need to apologize, I said to my father-in-law. My tone had softened a bit. You never did anything wrong. My father-in-law's eyes reddened. He lowered his head. Just then, my mother-in-law finally caught her breath. Mustering sudden courage, she stepped forward. Her voice shrilled, we didn't know she was rich. But we didn't abuse her either. So she washed some clothes, cooked some meals. What's the big deal? What daughter-in-law doesn't do housework? And besides, if she never told us, how could we know? We would have treated her well, of course. Shen Boyuan cut her off. His voice wasn't loud, but every word dropped like a block of iron. When she married into the Fu family, she was 23. She gave up her own career, gave up everything of the Shen family. She buried her name and became your daughter-in-law. Shen Boyuan took a step forward. His presence made my mother-in-law recoil. Her staying silent was her choice. She respected your family. Did you ever respect her? You never even bothered to ask who she was. My mother-in-law's face crumbled completely. Her lips trembled. Her eyes, too, welled up with tears. But Shin Buiyuan gave her no chance to defend herself. My daughter, Shin Buiyuan's daughter. She was pampered, never washed a dish. She graduated top of her class at business school when she was 20. At 21, she started her internship at Shin Corporation. At 23, she independently led a billion-dollar merger. Shin Buiyuan's voice grew louder and louder. She married in, cooked, cleaned, raised kids. And you all took it for granted. You all believed she deserved that kind of life. My mother-in-law was utterly silenced. Tears streamed down her face, cutting tracks through her foundation, leaving wretched streaks behind. Lin Chuanfu remained silent. From the very beginning. From Shin Buiyuan's query to my clash with Wanfu. He didn't utter a single word. He just stood there, as if rooted to the spot, his eyes hollow and dark. Like a light that's been snuffed out. He finally spoke. Enough. His voice was wrecked, a jagged whisper. Like it had been dragged over sandpaper. He looked up at Buiyuan Shin. Then his bloodshot eyes met mine. My fault. He said, his voice dropping lower. It's all my fault. He took a step back, and then another. He bowed deeply to me. He was in a navy suit, tall and broad-shouldered. When he bent, his spine curved vertebrae by vertebrae. Like a convict confessing his crimes. He stopped at a perfect 90 degrees. He held it for a few seconds. I'm sorry. His voice was muffled, thick with suppressed sobs. A dead silence fell. I stared at his bent back. At his clenched fists, his trembling shoulders. I've watched this man for 10 years. From passion to habit. From habit to disappointment, from disappointment to numbness. I thought seeing him bow would feel good. Cathartic. I thought I'd want to laugh. But all I felt was one thing, hollow. Lin Chuanfu stayed bent over there. Like a statue that had suddenly crumbled. Hundreds of people were watching. No one spoke. No one raised a glass. No one even glanced at their phone. Every ounce of attention was on me. Waiting for my reaction. That he'd apologize didn't surprise me. Deep down, Lin Chuanfu isn't a bad man. He was just conditioned. Conditioned to my sacrifice. Conditioned to my silence. Conditioned to me always standing 3 steps behind him. Like a shadow, there at his beck and call. He didn't mean to be cruel to me. He just never stopped to think a shadow needed kindness. But I didn't mean to isn't an excuse. The conditioning itself is the crime. I watched his lowered head. For about 5 silent seconds. Then I spoke. Get up. Lin Chuanfu's back stiffened. He straightened slowly and looked at me, his eyes a terrifying red. Tears in his eyes. What did he expect? I could see it. He was waiting for me to say, I forgive you. Or at least, I acknowledge it. He thought his apology could buy him a second chance. Or at least an easy way out. I wasn't going to give him one. I acknowledge your apology. My tone was flat. Like closing a folder after processing a file. But I don't accept it. The light in his eyes crashed instantly. Like I'd punched him square in the chest. He opened his mouth. His voice cracked. Yen yen. Sorry fixes this? I tilted my head, studying him. You think a little bow and a half-assed sorry wipes out 10 whole years? Erases the 3,600 times I washed the dishes? Makes all the crap I took from your family just disappear? He said nothing, his Adam's apple bobbing. Lin Chuanfu, apologizing is your choice. Accepting it is mine. I stepped forward. My heel clicked sharply against the silent hall floor. You're apologizing today because you found out who my father is. If my father hadn't been here today. If I were just a woman from an ordinary family. Would you be sorry? He froze. No, you wouldn't. I answered for him. Because when I was at home in cheap flip-flops waiting for you. You never apologized. When I was on N4 and had to cab home from the hospital. You never apologized. When your family bossed me around and you ignored it. You never apologized. 10 years. A million chances to say sorry, and you picked today. I smiled, but it never reached my eyes. It's not me you chose. It's the Shin name. Those words cut through him like a scalpel, precise and deep. His face went white, then flushed a deep, angry red. His lips started trembling violently. His eyes grew wetter, heavier. His fists clenched so tight. The nails bit into his palms. Like he was using the physical pain to fight something inside him. That's not it. His voice was so hoarse it was barely a whisper. That's not it. He raised his head, eyes bloodshot, raw. He forced out each word. I admit I treated you poorly all those years. I neglected you. I made you suffer. But you just tore down 10 years of my feelings for you. You're saying all I see is the Shen family. Yen Shen. Look me in the eye and tell me. In 10 years, did I never once mean a damn thing to you? He didn't wait for my answer. His voice suddenly rose, cracking, breaking down. You think I had no pressure these 10 years? I've been out there breaking my back to build the company up. To give us a better life. So what if I wasn't home a lot? Every time I came back, I told you, hang in there. I skipped business dinners to keep you from drinking. Didn't want you fending off those sleazy old men. I thought I was protecting you. By the end of it. His voice was spiraling out of control. His chest heaved violently. Like a caged animal, wounded and enraged. A low murmur rippled through the crowd. Some faces even softened with a flicker of sympathy. From where they stood, it was an understandable reaction, after all. Mr. Fu wasn't a monster. He was just a clueless husband. Can't blame the unknowing. He never knew who I really was, and to be fair, he never cheated. Or raised a hand to me. None of the truly unforgivable sins. A few people started giving me these complicated looks. Probably thought I was overreacting. I felt their eyes on me, but I didn't flinch. I wasn't even angry. Because they don't know. There's so much they don't know. I finished, and I turned to him. Lin Chuanfu was just breathing heavily, speechless. I turned away. And took a manila envelope from my father's assistant. It had been sitting in my safety deposit box for 3 years. The paper was yellowing. I slid the documents out. My fingers tracing the edges, moving with a slow, deliberate motion. Like I was unwrapping a piece of evidence sealed away a long time ago. You said you left me out of client dinners to spare me the drinking. I slapped the first page down in front of Lin Chuanfu. So tell me, on March 15th last year. In the penthouse suite of the Four Seasons. What exactly were you drinking with another woman? Lin Chuanfu's eyes fell on the document. And his pupils constricted in shock. It was a hotel check-in record. And there it was, in black and white. Lin Chuanfu. Four Seasons Hotel, penthouse suite. Check-in time, 11:03 p.m. Registered companion, Wan Qingsu. Wan Qingsu. I read the name aloud. My tone as neutral as reciting a financial report. Your marketing director. 4 years under you. Beautiful. Competent. Clearly adores you. On March 15th last year. You said Shenzhen trip, but you were at the Four Seasons. The room erupted. My mother-in-law's hand flew to her mouth. Wan Fu's eyes went wide. Even my father-in-law's head snapped up, staring at his son in utter, stunned disbelief. Lin Chuanfu's face went pale. A ghost. Drained of all color. He stared at the paper. His lips quivering for a long moment. He forced the words out. How do you have this? I let out a single, soft laugh. The second month Wan Qingsu joined your company. I had her investigated. Everything she'd done before. Her background, her closeness to you. I knew it all. Why the lawsuits over your tech patents? Always end in out-of-court settlements? The other side has leaked code from your CTO, Wan Qingsu. He physically staggered. You said you were busy. You said you were killing yourself for us. My words sped up. Each one a blade drawn in quick succession. While you were out there busting your ass? Su Wanqing was fixing your tie. When you came home from schmoozing clients and passed out cold. Her goodnight texts were still lighting up your phone. You think I don't know all of this? Do you have any idea how it feels? Every single time I see her name flash on your screen? We didn't. Lin Chuanfu's head snapped up. His voice was hoarse. She's just a subordinate. Nothing happened between us. She took the room key. She was just dropping off files. Then why'd you delete the chat logs? He froze. You thought I wouldn't find out. I pulled a second sheet from the envelope. A stack of call logs and message screenshots. You deleted your chat history with her. But the carrier keeps backups. You really thought hitting delete meant nobody could trace it? I tossed the papers in his face. They scattered across the floor. Words rang clear. Late night goodnights. Flirty tones. A level of care that crossed every professional line. No explicit declarations of love. But definitely not the behavior of innocent colleagues. Lin Chuanfu stared at the papers. Like he was reading his own death warrant. I didn't cheat. His voice trembled. A single tear finally fell. Just one, tracing a path down his cheek to his chin. Yen. I swear to you, I never touched her. It's just, when I talk to her, I don't have to overthink everything. She looks up to me. She makes me matter. I feel so pathetic with you. I finished his sentence for him. He stood there, paralyzed. The tear hanging from his chin. He didn't deny it. So you'd rather flirt with a woman who's beneath you than glance at the wife who waited 10 years? I let out a cold, quiet laugh. You never took me to your dinners? Because you were terrified I'd expose that I'm better than you. You shut me out of your circles? Because you knew your friends would see I'm smarter. You said protecting me. You protected your ego. My words came faster and harder, raining down on him like a storm. Lin Chuanfu wasn't listening anymore. He was just enduring it. You got used to me looking up to you. But you forgot, I never look up to anyone. I turned to the room, raising my voice. The restrained calm was gone now. Replaced by something absolute, commanding, utterly unapologetic. Everyone. Someone just said Mr. Fu isn't guilty if he didn't know. Someone called me dramatic. Here's more. I held up a single finger. 1. Fusher Tech's core algorithm framework. I built it for him 3 years ago. Without that framework, Fusher Tech wouldn't have survived till today. Second finger. Number 2. His company's 3 biggest clients, Huayuan, Xingfeng, Jinda, all have the Shen family's fingerprints on them. He didn't land those deals. I landed them for him. Third finger. Number 3. I own 30% of Fusher Tech. Not as Mrs. Fu. As Yun Yenshen. In other words. I paused, watching Lin Chuanfu's face completely crater. I'm your 3rd largest shareholder. That suit you're wearing, the leather shoes on your feet. Every dividend you pocket is my money. The words landed and the hall exploded. Not murmurs. Gasps of pure, unadulterated shock. Someone blurted out, "Oh my God." People texted frantically, others hid their faces. President Jean wiped his forehead in the corner. His expression screamed, "Thank God I picked the right side." My mother-in-law collapsed into a chair. The foundation on her face was streaked into canals by her tears. Wan Fu huddled beside her, clinging to her arm. They were a wreck. My father-in-law hung his head. His shoulders twitching. I couldn't tell if he was crying or shaking. And Lin Chuanfu? He just stood there, an empty shell with his soul scooped out. Tears fell, splashing on his suit jacket. He didn't wipe them, just stared, no anger. No resentment. Only a vast, crushing, all-consuming despair. He knew it was all over. Not the company. Yenshen was gone from his life forever. He opened his mouth, trying to form words. A faint whisper, "Who did I marry?" I asked. I looked for 3 full seconds. Then I bent down, dowry in hand. I gathered the scattered papers from the floor. My movements were unhurried and deliberate. Like I was tidying up a piece of trash not even worth mentioning. As I straightened up. You married someone you thought was beneath you. I slid the stack of papers back into the envelope. I caught Wan Qingsu's name, tracing the edge. It stirred no emotion in my heart. When I uncovered all this 3 years ago, I sat in the study for an entire night, watching the sky outside turn from black to gray to white. Lin Chuanfu's snoring drifted from the master bedroom next door, steady and peaceful, like a man with no secrets. That morning, he saw my swollen, red eyes. He asked, "Why are you up so early?" I said, "Couldn't sleep." He just grunted, grabbed his briefcase, and left. Never even asked a single follow-up. Looking back, that was my breaking point. Not his affair. Not the night he sent me to the ER alone. It was the moment he saw my eyes, swollen from crying, and couldn't even be bothered to ask, "What's wrong?" I handed the envelope back to father's assistant, and turned to face Lin Chuanfu. He was still standing in the same spot. The tears had dried, leaving 2 faint trails on his face. His eyes were still red, but that initial breakdown had passed. What replaced it was something deeper. Emptiness. Like a house after someone rips out every load-bearing wall. The facade's still standing, but the inside has already collapsed. He watched the envelope in my hand. Watched the motion of me handing it over. A sound clawed from his throat. "Don't go." So faint. Barely audible to anyone but me and my father. Wu Yuanshan's brow furrowed, about to say something. I pressed down on his hand, stopping him. Lin Chuanfu took another step forward. This time, security moved to block him, but I waved them off. He walked right up to me. So close I could smell that familiar pine cologne on him. Close enough to see crow's feet from 30 years of sleepless nights. I'd even prepped goji soup for him that week. His lips were trembling. "Yen Yen." He said my name, his voice light and shattered. "I know you hate me right now. You think I'm a hypocrite. Think I'm heartless. Think I'm not worthy of you. You can hate me. Hate me all you want." He took a shaky breath. Fresh tears brimmed. "But you can't, just end it like this." I just stared at him. 10 years. When he said those 2 words, as if choked. 10 years together. Not 10 days. Not 10 months. 10 years. Over 3,600 days and nights. Remember that tiny place we had the year we got married? The kitchen was so small, only one person could fit. When you cooked, I'd just hover around behind you. You said I was in the way. You'd swap my hand with the spatula. His voice cracked. You think I've forgotten? He pressed on, tears spilling over again. I haven't. That year, for our anniversary, I bought you a scarf. A cheap thing from a street stall. $80. You were over the moon about it. You wore it all winter. I swore then. I'll make money. Buy you the world. But then, you did. I finished for him. You bought the big house. The luxury cars. The designer suits. You had all the money in the world, just no time. He froze. The scarf is still in my closet. I said it. Flat. I take it out every winter, just to look at it. But I just realized this year, when you bought me that scarf. I was in your heart then. Later, when you stopped. That's because I wasn't there anymore. You just got used to having someone waiting at home for you. No, that's not, just let me finish. My voice was quiet, but he shut his mouth instantly. This isn't some rash decision. You asked me earlier if I could look you in the eye and tell you. You never meant a thing to me. I'm telling you now, you did. You truly loved me. Those first 2 years. Tears started falling from his eyes again. But so what? I said. A $10 scarf kept me warm for 2 years. The cold of the next 8 years, that scarf can't touch it. As those words landed, Lin Chuanfu's entire body swayed. Like a massive blow to his chest. Mouth agape. Tears crashing down in huge drops. A choked sob tearing from his throat, half a cry. Struggling to speak, weeping. Not that repressed kind from before, the stoic, single-tear act. He was genuinely broken. His shoulders heaved violently, his chest convulsing. Gripping his lapels, knuckles white, he bent. Like a defeated boxer. Bracing on knees, refusing to fall. I was wrong, he sobbed, broken. I was so wrong. Yen Yen. I'll do anything. Go ahead and divorce me. Take the company, take it all. Don't look at me like that. Hate me. Face wet, eyes swollen. Hate me. Scream at me. Hit me. Anything but that look. It was peace. A peace without hate. Without any emotion at all. A dead calm. Because love's opposite isn't hate. It's indifference. Hate means you care. When hate fades, that's the true end. I don't want your company, I said. I'll have my lawyer send over the share transfer agreement tomorrow. All the Shen family gave you, I reclaim. Effective now. How far Fusher Tech goes from here, that's on you. His crying stopped for a single beat. Then it got louder. He was nearly wailing. A man in his 30s? Wearing a bespoke suit worth tens of thousands. standing in front of hundreds of business elites, sobbing like a little boy who just lost the entire world. In the crowd behind him, President Jean lowered his head. Mr. Lee from Underdog Group quietly took 2 steps back. Former brothers now shunned him. Tree falls, monkeys scatter. His standing came from the Shin family. Roads his wife silently paved for him. And today, every single one of those roads has been destroyed. He begged for his future, not me. His reputation. The thing he's broken his back over for a decade. But after 10 years in business, learn, choices have costs. Lin Chuanfu. I crouched down to meet his eyes. Listen to me. In 10 years, I have never regretted marrying you. Because when I made that choice, I truly loved you. I don't regret loving you. But from today on, my voice was so quiet. Soft as a feather landing on snow. I don't love you anymore. Tears, quivering lips, he looked up. Can I get one more chance? Last year, March 15th, at the Four Seasons Hotel. I asked him, did you give me a chance? He froze like he'd been electrocuted. His mouth opened. Not a single word came out. I straightened up. Stepped back. Trust you too. Lin Chuanfu, you never even gave her a chance to explain herself. Begging now? He slumped. His tailored suit a crumpled mess, hair disheveled. The tear stains on his face gleaming coldly under the lights. He looked utterly pathetic. Like a stray dog drenched in a downpour. I turned around, refusing to look at him any longer. The crowd parted, clearing a path for me without a word. Their expressions were a kaleidoscope, shock, pity, fear or sick thrill in eyes. Probably already lining up tomorrow's WeChat Moments post. As I passed Mr. Jean, he quickly bowed. Murmuring, safe travels, Miss Shen. When I passed the Fu family, mother-in-law jerked up, mouth opened. I didn't break stride. I just tilted my head and glanced at her. Her mouth clamped shut. Wan Fu was cowering behind her. Hands still clamped protectively over her Cartier bracelet, too terrified to meet my eyes. Father-in-law rose, tears flowing. His voice trembling, Yen Yen. You're a good soul. The Fu family has failed you. I gave him a nod. Nothing more needed to be said. I heard frantic footsteps rushing up behind me. I didn't turn around. But I knew it was Lin Chuanfu. He chased after me. Yen Yen. His voice was so hoarse it was barely a whisper. Like his throat had been ripped raw. He stumbled towards me, but was blocked by security. He grabbed for me, screaming, just tell me one thing. In 10 years, was there ever a single day you were truly happy? Even just one day. The elevator doors opened before me. Warm light and mirrors inside reflected my tall silhouette. Dressed in a smoky gray cheongsam, I stood at the elevator's threshold, silent for 3 seconds. There were a few, I said. But those days were so rare, I can barely remember them now. The elevator doors slid shut, locking his gut-wrenching screams outside. The elevator descended. Mirrors reflected me in couture gowns from every angle. Standing ramrod straight, eyes clear and painfully dry, I stared at my reflection for a long moment, making sure my eyes weren't red. Then I reached up and adjusted the cheongsam's collar. Pearls cold under my fingers. The elevator hit the ground floor. Doors dinged open. The lobby was packed. Someone must have posted about it on social media. A crowd jammed the entrance, phones raised to record. The manager led security to keep order. Seeing me emerge, he jogged over immediately. Sweat gleamed on his brow. Miss Shen. Press is outside. Prefer the underground exit? I glanced beyond the glass doors. The camera flashes were as thick as fireflies on a summer night. Reporters had cameras hoisted onto their shoulders, lenses aimed directly at the door. That won't be necessary, I said. I'll use the main entrance. The manager froze for a moment, then nodded obsequiously and stepped aside, gesturing to the security guards. Just as my high heels clicked to the center of the hotel lobby, The sound of the elevator arriving echoed from behind me again. Lin Chuanfu's ravaged voice screamed Yan Shen. I kept walking. He chased me into the lobby, footsteps frantic. I paused at the revolving door and glanced back at him. He looked utterly wrecked. A button on his suit jacket had somehow been torn off. His tie was hanging askew, and the tear tracks on his face were still wet. The Fu family followed. His mother, pale, helped along. Wanfu's eye makeup was completely ruined. Yan Shen. Lin Chuanfu ran to within 5 or 6 steps of me. Held back by hotel security, he was bent over, hands on his knees, gasping for air. When he lifted his face to look at me, his eyes were swollen shut. Where are you going? Home. Which home? I said. His voice was shaking, like a drowning man clutching at the last piece of driftwood. I looked at him. For 2 seconds. Then I smiled. The Shen family. The moment those words landed, the Rolls-Royce door swung open. The driver stepped out, opened the rear door, and stood waiting beside the car. Flashbulbs exploded. Shutters roared like a wave. Lin Chuanfu squinted, blinded by the flashes. His expression twisted for an instant, then broke into desperate pleading. You can't just, he shook off the guards and took 2 steps toward me. I can give you everything. Just one chance, Lin Chuanfu. I cut him off. My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough for everyone present to hear. I already gave you your dignity back in the hall. He stopped dead. His lips went white. If you insist on doing this here, then I'll make myself perfectly clear right here. I turned around, facing him, and the gawking crowd gathered behind him. Listen to me. I don't need your money. I don't need your company. I don't need you to leave with nothing. I, Yin Yanshen, am not short of any of that. I took a step forward. He stumbled back. What I lack is 10 years. Over 3,600 days and nights. The respect and companionship a husband owes his wife. These are things you could never give me. You give them now, not because you've seen reason, but because you're scared. His face was ashen as paper. His lips trembled violently, trying to form words, but I gave him no opening. You fear losing the Shen family's resources. Fear waking to your company back at square one. Your friends drawing a line in the sand. Your empire bursting like bubbles. He froze, as if nailed to the floor. You don't love me. You love the fantasy of a docile Mrs. Fu. I said slowly, that was never me. I finished and turned toward the revolving door. Flashes pierced the glass, blinding and relentless. I walked straight into that glare. My high heels struck the marble floor, a crisp, unwavering sound. Behind me, Lin Chuanfu's hoarse cry, Yan Shen. If you leave, don't come back. I didn't look back. I didn't stop. The revolving door turned. The cold wind hit me head-on. The November night air was sharp, lifting the hem of my qipao. At the bottom of the hotel steps, the Shen family's motorcade was waiting, 3 black Rolls-Royces. The door of the middle car stood open. Wu Yuenshen was already seated inside. The press was going berserk, flashbulbs erupting in a frenzy. Someone was shouting, Miss Shen, over here. Others live-streamed. I stood atop steps, recalling age 22 at Shen Corp's ribbon cutting. Surrounded by the same blinding storm of flashbulbs. Back then, I thought I'd spend my life conquering the business world. Never thought I'd quit to be a housewife. No regrets. I just took a wrong turn. Now I'm correcting the route. I descended the steps and slipped into the car. The Rolls-Royce door shut behind me with a solid, muted thud, locking all that chaos and flashbulbs outside. Inside, it was dead silent. A faint scent of leather and agarwood hung in the air. Wu Yuenshen sat beside me, watching me settle in, watching me fasten my seatbelt. He lightly patted my hand. His hand was steady now, warm and dry. You're home, he said. Just 2 words, and the heat rushed suddenly behind my eyes. The tears I'd been holding back the whole damn night finally broke free, unstoppable now. Not ugly, heaving sobs, just tears sliding silently down my cheeks, dripping one after another onto the collar of my couture qipao. making the pearls feel cold against my skin. Wu Yuanshan said nothing more. He just held my hand tighter. The convoy pulled away smoothly, exiting the hotel's circular driveway. Last glimpse, Lin Chuanfu stumbled out. He stood on the steps, his suit rumpled, his hair a windblown mess, the tracks of his tears glinting under the streetlights. He watched our convoy pull away, looking like a shattered stone statue, swallowed whole by a sea of flashbulbs. He staggered forward a couple of steps, then his knees buckled, and he collapsed onto the hotel's front steps. A man rushed over to help him. It was President Jean. Lin Chuanfu violently shook off his hand. He yelled, but Windows muted all. I couldn't hear a thing, but I could read his lips. He was shouting my name, over and over and over. Yen Yen. The convoy turned a corner. His silhouette shrank smaller and smaller, until it dissolved into that cold, pitiless sea of flashbulbs, and vanished completely from my sight. I turned my head. Eyes closed, tears fell, the 10-year wait broke. Dad? Then his soft, pained laugh. I want to go back to work. Wu Yuanshan was silent for a full 2 seconds. He laughed, heartbroken. He said, your office has always been waiting for you. Shincorp's VP seat was never offered to anyone. The city lights outside the car window flew backwards in a blur. A million lights flowed through my blurred vision. I suddenly remembered the year we got married. Lin Chuanfu held my hand and said, from now on, wherever I am, that will be your home. That sentence was true back then. It only turned into a lie later. But it doesn't matter anymore. I am my own home. 3 months later. The boardroom, atop Shincorp HQ. I stood before the glass curtain wall in a crisp white power suit, overlooking the city's panoramic skyline. Senior execs packed the long table behind me. A document sat squarely in front of every single one of them. Its cover read, Acquisition Proposal for Fuji Tech. The chief strategy officer of Shincorp adjusted his glasses and spoke with a hesitant tone. President Shen, Fuji Tech's market cap has shrunk by 60%, yes. But its core operations remain intact. Our assessment indicates the acquisition risk is manageable. It's just what? Fuji Tech's founder, Lin Chuanfu, keeps contacting us. He wants a meeting. Says he doesn't want the money. He just wants to speak with you face to face. I turned around, looked at that acquisition proposal, and picked up the pen. He doesn't need to see me. I signed my name on the signature line. His strokes, sharp as a decade ago. He just needs to sign. Pen hit paper, a knock came at the door. My assistant peeked in, unreadable. President Shen. There's a Mr. Fu downstairs asking for you. He says he's been waiting all morning. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and glanced down. At the building's entrance stood a man in a dark trench coat. His figure was so small, insignificant, like a speck of dust. He paced in the wind, glancing up at the building. I pulled the blinds shut. Let him wait. I sat back and opened the next file. Without even looking up, I said, let's continue the meeting. Outside, the city's highest skyline stretched into the distance. Sunlight hit the glass facade of the Shin Corporation building, refracting into a blaze of gold. And me? I sat in the executive chair at the very top. The Shin Empire at my back, my own battlefield before me. 10 years. I'm finally back where I belong. Downstairs, Lin Chuanfu waits for a lost memory. Up here, I am rebuilding my throne. An unbridgeable gap now, one he'll never close. 3 hours passed before the meeting concluded. I walked out of the boardroom. My assistant murmured, President Shen. Mr. Fu is still downstairs. Security, pacing all morning, no lunch. I didn't say a word. I just walked straight to the elevator. Assistant, should I? Let him wait. Elevator. Lobby button. My assistant froze for a second, then scrambled in after me. The elevator descended in silence. Mirror, white suit, same look. Hair, not a single strand out of place. Old Yin Yenshin's sharp eyes. Back. I have a client meeting in 30 minutes. It's on the way. The elevator chimed. Ground floor. The door slid open. The lobby was bustling with people. The receptionist saw me and practically jumped to her feet. Waved off. Straight to doors. It was freezing outside. A November wind whipped dead leaves across the pavement. The sun was golden, but it held absolutely no warmth. I pushed through the glass doors. And I saw him immediately. Lin Chuanfu was standing at the bottom of the steps. His coat collar was turned up. His hair was a windblown mess. He'd lost so much weight. Dark stubble shadowed his jaw. Sunken eyes, hollowed. Drained. He saw me. And he just froze. Then he snapped out of it, thawed, and strode toward me. Yen yen. He stopped himself 3 paces away. He must have seen the look on my face. He slammed on the brakes. He just stared at me. His lips parted. Like he had 1,000 things to say. And in that moment, every single word got caught in his throat. His eyes were red, but this time, he didn't cry. He just looked at me. For a long, long time. Horse, you alright? Stared. 3 months. Unrecognizable from Mingda party. The suit under his coat was still good fabric. But it was clearly worn. Threadbare at the cuffs. The collar wasn't even pressed properly. He probably didn't have the energy to care anymore. Or maybe he just couldn't afford his old private tailor. Good. I'm fine, I said. And you? He froze again. He definitely hadn't expected me to ask him that. He opened his mouth. And let out the short, bitter laugh. I'm not. I didn't respond. The company. He went on, his voice so low. I know you signed the acquisition agreement. I have no objections. Take it back. It was always yours to begin with. It's your company, I said. Without you. He met my eyes. That company is nothing. I am nothing. The wind held between us. Kicking up a few dead leaves. And he fell silent. Then, as if steeling himself for something, he pulled something from his coat pocket and held it out to me. A scarf. An old, faded scarf, worn thin from washing. But folded, neatly, perfectly. That night, you said his voice was shaking. You said the scarf warmed you for 2 years, but 8 years of cold can't match that. He never handed it to me. He just held it out, cradling something fragile. I kept thinking afterward, where did I first go wrong? He said. It was just, slowly. Bit by bit. I started taking you for granted. You stood behind me. You did everything for me. You never complained. And I thought you didn't need. His voice broke. I thought you needed nothing from me. I stared at that scarf. I looked for a long time. The winter sun hit the old wool, casting a layer of soft, warm light. It took me back to that winter, years ago, when he bought it for $80 at a street stall. And brought it home, presenting it to me like a treasure. His eyes were so bright back then. He said it was cheap. But someday, he'd buy me the best. He meant it then. Later, he just forgot. Keep the scarf, I said. He looked up at me. A glint of water in his eyes. You don't have to give it back, I said. Things that have passed, are just gone. Keep it if you want. Throw it away. It's all the same to me now. His lips moved. Like he was searching for words, but I had already turned away. I have a meeting, I said. You should go. It's cold. I took 2 steps. Didn't turn around. I'm sorry. His voice was so quiet. Quiet as a dead leaf falling in the wind. This time, he didn't yell. Didn't break down. Didn't beg. He just said those 3 words. Like a man who'd finally learned to be still. Talking to himself. I didn't answer. Just kept walking forward. The sun was at my back, stretching my shadow long. I climbed the steps. Pushed open the glass doors. And walked into the warm, bright lobby of Shin Corporation. The receptionist smiled at me. The security guard held the elevator. I stepped in and pressed the button for the top floor. As the doors slid shut, I looked out the glass. Fu Linchuan still stood there, clutching that old scarf, looking in my direction. He didn't chase after me. Didn't shout my name. Just stood there. Like a man who finally knows exactly where he went wrong, but it's way too late to fix it. The elevator rose smoothly. I leaned back against the polished wall. I leaned against the elevator wall. Mirror. White suit. Sharp hair. The features staring back, pure Yunyenshin. The woman I was before. But there's something new in the eyes now. Something like peace. The elevator dings at the top floor. Doors slide open. I step out. Assistant waits, folder ready. The client has arrived. Good. I take the folder. Long hall to meeting. Sunlight floods in through the floor-to-ceiling windows at the end. Gold light, shadows. My heels strike the marble floor. The rhythm is steady. Absolute. Lin Chuanfu is down there, waiting for his ghost of the past. I'm up here, rebuilding my throne. Between us lies a distance he can never outrun. I raise my eyes to the windows at the end of the hall. Beyond the glass, the city skyline. Forests of steel and glass. A vast, unbroken horizon. I stand at the very top of this tower. Behind me is the Shan Empire. Ahead of me is my own path. 10 years. I'm finally home. And I'm never leaving again.